Study for the MCAT anytime, anywhere, and boost your score. Get started with the MCAT Prep app by Med School Coach. Access hundreds of video tutorials, flashcards, and a robust question bank. With study scheduling and spaced repetition flashcards, mastering the MCAT has never been easier or more convenient. Join thousands of satisfied users who have elevated their MCAT game. Download the MCAT Prep app by Med School Coach from your favorite app store today.
We already know how to operate. We already know how to problem solve. We already know organizational skills, communication skills are imperative for what we do. So we already have developed a lot of the things that are required for innovation to actually, take flight.
Welcome to the Prospective Doctor podcast, brought to you by Med School Coach. Join us weekly for stories and insights to empower pre-med and medical students to pursue their aspirations of becoming doctors. Hear from physicians, deans, advisors, and industry experts on becoming a standout candidate and what life is truly like in the medical field. Let passion ignite your journey toward residency and becoming a doctor.
I bet you never considered having to think about having your entire identity stolen as you were thinking about the things that you needed to consider when becoming a physician. No, I'm not talking about your social security number or even PHI. I'm talking about specific identifiers that affect your ability to work. This happened to Dr. Leah Houston, and she decided to fight back. Take the moment to listen to this emergency medicine physician's extravagant and extraordinary story about how she took some lemons and made lemonade, and now she's able to help so many physicians also protect their identities. This is an episode you don't want to miss.
It feels like yesterday that I was in medical school and then residency in Albany, New York. And, I kept hearing about all of these administrative burdens that we would have to carry. But I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to be a great doctor and I'll deal with that stuff. It's not going to be a big deal. But, the people that shared that with me were right. The administrative burdens in healthcare are excessive and most of them are uncompensated. And one of them is around credentialing and identity management. And so, we think all of these applications we have to do for medical school, once we're done and we're practicing, we're done with all of that stuff. No. We continue to have to credential for hospitals and insurance companies and everywhere we work. And there was a paperwork snafu with one of the hospitals where they continued to use my credentials to bill after I left that hospital. And it caused a case of Medicare, Medicaid identity fraud that led me to be unable to work. And that incident led me to start a company to fix the problem.
I love how you took action. I am sorry that you went through all of that. Like, that's so scary a lot of times. And we'll get into it for the students who are listening. Physicians aren't the best or the most trained on like admin type stuff that we'll call it. And things like your MPI number and all of those kinds of things that go through with credentialing and signing forms and all of the things that help healthcare run and people to get reimbursed. A lot of times we trust individuals to take care of that, and they don't care for you like you can care for you.
Right. And so, by the time you're done, there's like 30 to 70 different credentials that you have, from your medical degree to your medical license, your DEA number that lets you prescribe for controlled substances, your continuing medical education. Even those procedure logs that we do in residency kind of follow us throughout our career. And in order to onboard to hospitals, you need to continuously check and verify those things. And, it's such an overly burdensome process that we're kind of required to give our usernames and passwords to the hospitals in order for it to be done, because they're not going to pay us for our time to do it. And so if we don't give them our passwords, we're essentially spending dozens of hours filling out redundant forms. So we kind of have to give up that power because there's no other solution.
I identify with that because I work in digital health, and in digital health, they prefer that you have multiple licenses. So I've had 51 licenses and it's a headache. And the initial company that I worked for had hired someone, like a team, to help credential you, as they do with most organizations.
and we had to entrust them with filling out our forms every year. And I noticed when I transitioned from them, I did not want other people to manage my things. There are things that you sign when you are talking to medical licensures, like I verify it's me and I like to have integrity and all of those things. So I realized when I had been going through all the forms, because everyone was like, oh, no, it's okay. Every doctor does that. Oh, that's what you're supposed to do. They're here to help you. All of the things are wrong. Like there are things on there that say I'm a man. There are things like the passcodes when you're calling, like they're saying your grandparents, where are they from? Tennessee. I've never been to Tennessee. So there are big errors. So you have to make sure that you can protect your own. But like you said, it becomes so onerous and burdensome that people can't maintain this, and the jobs don't want to pay you to do administrative things. So you've come up with a solution. Can you tell us about that?
So right now, the process of credentialing is, when you graduate from medical school or you get a medical license or any other credential, they give you that paper version and you might put it on your wall. But then when you share it, the entity you're sharing it with is required by law based on a CMS regulation, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid regulation, to primary source verify some of those credentials, which means that they have to call up the CME company, they have to call up the medical school, the residency program, the DEA, they have to log in and actually verify that that credential is authentic and that it's up to date and that it's not expired. And then they have to do that for regulatory compliance every 2 years. And they're actually going to start tightening that window because there's the No Surprises Act that says that doctors can't be paid if they're not credentialed for insurance companies. So you can't send patients a surprise bill if all of a sudden your insurance credentialing has lapsed. What we're doing differently is we are creating a wallet where each doctor can hold pre-verified data. And when that pre-verified data is shared, it comes along with provenance verification that it actually is authentic and up to date. And we do that with a combination of 3 tools. One is decentralized identity protocols that allows a medical school or a credential issuing body to issue a credential and document proof that it actually came from them. The other is optical recognition software where we can use AI essentially to read and pull in the metadata from your credentials. And the other one is APIs that plug into places like state licensing boards. Now those are being developed in more and more places. And so essentially you have a wallet with all your pre-verified data, you share it and you can be instantaneously verified. And so that primary source verification doesn't need to happen anymore, or it's essentially automatically primary source verified.
I love that. It's so fascinating. I know that people who are listening to this podcast are not always tech savvy. How did you gain the knowledge and the experience and the partnerships and things like that in order to push forward with this type of work that is so necessary for the physician community?
I learned about some of these technologies a while back. I was living in Silicon Valley, and a bunch of startup companies who said, we want to help patients own their data, had these ideas. And so they came to me as a doctor to get some feedback. And as doctors, we always care about our patients first. So I said, amazing. We're going to help patients get their data. We're going to help patients get the right care at the right time. Let me look into this with you. And we discovered that decentralized identity protocols are the best tool for that to actually happen. Patients can also hold their data in a verifiable credential wallet where you can have your radiology report, your surgical note, your hospital admission and discharge summary, your vaccination record from when you were a child, all the way to your death certificate when you die. And these tools for verification, if they're implemented, patients can take their data wherever they want. They can receive data from doctors. They can share data with other doctors and they can get better care. Now, when my identity was stolen, a little light bulb went off and I said, it's not just patients that need to own their data. It's doctors too. And we can use these tools for physicians to own their data. And to take it a step further, if we want to create privacy and trust between doctors again, where patients feel like they can trust their doctor, we have this tool where we can share the data directly with their patients instead of having to put them on centralized servers. So in order for that loop to be closed, in order for the patients to really own their data, it needs to be a direct share between them and their doctor, because we're the ones that actually create the data and those reports and those operative notes, et cetera. And so because of this thing that happened to me that led me to a 5-month-long lawsuit with the large health systems, it led me to want to build this tool for doctors.
In the competitive world of medical school, your application is the first look advisors have into what makes you shine. But where do you start? Luckily, Med School Coach has the expertise to elevate your application to the next level. From crafting a compelling personal statement to developing a narrative for your secondary essays, we know what admissions committees are looking for, and we're here to help you develop your authentic voice. Visit medschoolcoach.com for more on application support.
As you were learning how to build this tool and you were talking with innovators in Silicon Valley and all of these types of things, a lot of times I know speaking to students and speaking to other physicians, they're like, this isn't my realm. Like, I don't know how to speak like tech knowledge, all of the different things. What advice do you have for those who may be going into medicine, who may have thoughts of creating an innovation?
So it started with me being in a place where a lot of people were talking about this stuff and me being approached by companies. But if you're really interested in it, the best thing that you can do is reach out to the companies that seem to be like they're doing the innovative things, offer to work for them, offer to do an internship, offer to help with a small project, reach out to the founder, reach out to the chief medical officer, and, just dip your toe in the water. Even if it's not helping out with a project, you can just ask them, where do I go to learn more about this? I started attending the Decentralized Identity Workshop, or the Internet Identity Workshop, which is a workshop that's been going on for over 20 years. It's basically all of the identity systems that are on the internet, from logging into your bank all the way to the ID.me solution that's used for our taxes, and the IRS uses that tool. All of those systems are built on standards that were developed by the same people that go to this conference. And so I started going to the conference when I started learning about this, and I started meeting the people that knew how to build these tools and started reading and understanding these technology standards. And I met the innovators in the space, and that's why I was able to find the right people to help develop this. And so it's just really kind of like the same thing as anyone else. You want to go into a super specialty. You start reading about that specialty. You start seeing the names of the people that are doing the research. You start digging into it. You give them a call. You go to a conference. It's the same process in medicine as it is in other industries.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that you bring up some really great advice. Like, number one, networking is so important. If you are interested in something, a topic, whether or not it's in medicine or something else, do your research. You can ask people. People love talking about themselves. So if they don't have time, because some people don't have capacity, more than likely, if you reach out and say, hey, can I use 15 minutes of your time to just talk about the cool things that you're doing and have a virtual coffee or in person, they'll likely say yes. And if they can't, they'll be like, no, but here's a person you could talk to or reach out to. People love that. Another thing is, like you said, like going outside of medicine and learning what people are doing in other industries. We've seen it and we've learned about it so often, about how we borrow things in medicine anyway, especially like from the airline companies. Like Universal Protocol has saved so many lives. So why not go and learn from other people? Because you see that so many different things that we're doing with AI or with other things is transferable right into medicine, and it can be applied other ways. Even when you went to that initial where you were talking to people and they were talking about patients and blockchain, you were like, that's wonderful. Yes, patients blockchain, but we need it too. So like, why not use ideas, because there's nothing new under the sun, and create solutions that can help so many.
I just want to say, like, without bragging or sounding arrogant, we, the ones who go into medicine, like the things that we have to do to just be able to apply are very difficult and complex. And so, we already know how to operate. We already know how to problem solve. We already know organizational skills, communication skills are imperative for what we do. So we already have developed a lot of the things that are required for innovation to actually, take flight. And so have confidence in yourself, and, also offer to help. A person that's currently working with me right now, she actually is somebody who's been doing credentialing for over 10 years. And she somehow came across a podcast just like this. And she said, oh my God, this is amazing. This is exactly what we need. And she reached out to me and she nudged me a couple of times on LinkedIn because she wanted to help. And so now she's part of the team and she's working with us, and her help has been invaluable, and she's going to get some equity in the company for her help. And so if you show interest, a genuine interest, and also show that you're going to like make the person's life easier rather than just take their time, you're going to learn a lot along the way. And open doors for yourself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. A lot of times when you're speaking to people who may be in the beginning of their career, who may be having like a mid-career crisis or that 5 or 10 year itch where they're like, is there something else out there? Yes, there is. And a lot of times I know when I was speaking to my friends early after residency, some of them were thinking of doing something different. They're like, well, I don't even know what I could do. I could barely have a credentials or things to work at Sephora. And that's absolutely not true. Like, you have so many skills. You've led teams. You're a great leader. You know how to communicate well because you're doing great history taking and presentations. You're giving grand rounds to like 30, 40, 100 people. You're able to take complex information and process it and then repeat it back in a way that's digestible to others. Like, you have so many different skill sets that you don't even realize. So you're actually an asset to joining a team and not a burden. Like, yes, you may not know like the design thinking method, but you also know how to read. So read a book, ask some questions, and just kind of go after what you're interested in.
Yeah. You know, we know how to figure things out. On the flip side, however, I want to give a warning because I have some physician colleagues who were kind of brought into startup environment and said, oh, hey, here, we need you for this. And they were given a title, but they weren't compensated fairly and they weren't given equity. And if you're really interested in something and you're learning still, it's okay to give some of your time so that you're learning, especially if you feel like you're learning. But also be careful of being taken advantage of, because, we as physicians are extreme empaths. That's why we want to put patients first. We always are worried about our patients and want to do the right thing for them. So we don't often think about ourselves, which is why I didn't even consider this solution until I had an actual problem happen to me that made me consider it. And so just, be wary, stick up for yourself, ask for equity, create some milestones. So maybe offer to do a 30-day project with somebody uncompensated, put a little time box on it, give yourself some metrics that are doable, and then say, if this project works, let's do a 6-month contract where I get compensated in equity or shares, and just make sure it's fair so that you're not being taken advantage of either, because I've also seen that.
Absolutely. I love that you brought this up because literally maybe a meeting or so before we were meeting, I was speaking to a resident who's interested in working with startups, and we had the exact same conversation. Startups are an interesting space. They have rapid growth in some of them, but some of them have big failures. And everyone, like you said, we're empaths. We want to help. Like, that's why we're here. The reason I started in some of the startup land as being a consultant is because a lot of people were like, let me pick your brain. And you're like, oh, I love talking. But you have to realize your worth and not let people take advantage of you. You also have to make a living, and people are predators out there. So you have to make sure that not only are you having conversations, but like you said, you're having fair contracts. Always get a lawyer to look at your contracts. There are stories for days for different organizations, but you have to protect yourself and you have to be smart about the organizations that you align with and you put your name with, because it'll follow you. So if you've seen some of these big headlines in the news about different things, you don't want to be a part of that headline, because who do they look for? The doctors, the chief medical officers that they'll give you those titles for and things. Like, you'll be in the headline and you don't want that to affect your career.
100%. And so that being said, if this project excites you, reach out to me. I really want this to be a physician-owned company. And so I would love to bring on, medical students or residents who want to help with some projects. There's a lot of things that we need to get done, and you can learn a lot along the way. And, if you're interested in this space and you want a little feedback, also reach out to me. I would always love to chat with a soon-to-be fellow colleague who's trying to get into the space. I can offer advice, feedback, recommendations, introductions. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me that way.
I love that. Like, students, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to not only learn how to protect yourselves and your colleagues, but also get an introductory kind of course or life lessons in tech and startups and all of the things that are going to be a part of healthcare moving forward. We are in a healthcare innovation realm in this part of history, and we're going to make so much impact with different opportunities. So it would be great if you have interest, reach out. How should they reach out to you?
My direct messages are open on Twitter. They're also open on LinkedIn. I can also be emailed at leah@hpec.io. But the best way to reach out to me is to log into the application and to connect with me there. Medical students and pre-med students aren't able to get into the app because it's a physician-only app, and so you have to at least be a resident. But as soon as you have that NPI number, any medical or osteopathic physician in the U.S. can join and can connect with me directly, and we can have secure, private, direct messages within the application.
That's awesome. So as we kind of draw to a close, do you have any advice for students who are at the beginning of their medical journey?
No matter what, the hard work is going to be valuable. So, since this has happened, I've stopped practicing medicine because this is really a full-time job and I really miss it. I really loved practicing emergency medicine, but I wouldn't be able to run this company if I hadn't experienced what I experienced. And so, always put your heart into whatever it is that you're doing. Always learn as if your patient's life is going to depend on it. And no matter what direction you take, whether you go into the super specialty that you thought you were going to go into, or whether you end up taking a more generalist approach, whether you choose to do private practice or work for a large health system, whatever you do, the hard work is going to pay off and be applicable. And so just, continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to work hard.
If you like this episode, please share it and make sure to subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find me, Dr. Erkeda DeRouen, on Instagram at Dr. DGram, DOCTOR, the letter DGRAM, or on LinkedIn under my name, Erkeda DeRouen. See you guys next week.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward med school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.
Are you ready to conquer the MCAT and secure your future in medicine? Look no further than Med School Coach. With our unparalleled expertise and cutting-edge resources, you'll tackle the MCAT with confidence. Our practice exams, crafted by the world's leading MCAT experts, provide the most realistic simulation available. Discover your strengths and weaknesses with in-depth analytics and detailed explanations for every question. Plus, with options like our free half-length exam and affordable bundles, mastering the MCAT has never been easier or more accessible. Don't just prepare for the MCAT. Excel with Med School Coach.